Hey, welcome back, Patreons, to the Secret Friends Unite Spotlight. This is the program where we get the chance to talk to awesome creatives and entertainment pros and talk about their awesome careers. And we've got a great guest tonight, Marc Guggenheim, a legend of page and stage. Welcome to the show. It's great to meet you.
Oh, it's great to meet you too. Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. I'm of course joined by Todd if you're listening to us on audio.
Hello.
Todd and I are both wearing green for no reason in particular.
I
Ha 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 ha.
am not.
Well,
I'm wearing gray.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Usually reflective of the skies in this part of the country this
I
time
tell
of
you,
year.
I'm in California right now, and it's this part of the country too, man.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
It's
really?
oh yeah, I want my money back. LA, LA has not been living up to its reputation weather-wise lately. It's very
Oh man, oh
disappointing
man.
to me. Yeah,
Oh
it's
good.
annoying
Well,
me.
brighter days ahead, I certainly hope. Well, let's get rolling. So I usually start with the first question. It's an easy one. What brought you to the life? What got you into comics, TV, movies, the whole shebang bang?
Oh gosh. Well, I love comics. I've always loved comic books. Back when I was a little kid, I can't remember a time when I wasn't, not even reading comics. Even before I could read, I was flipping through them. And I interned at Marvel during my college years. And that was great. And I just always loved it. And I guess, similarly, like, you know, got into television, and movies. My dad owns an electronics store, so we were the first people on our block with a VCR.
Nice.
Wow.
The younger folks can look up what that is.
Not us.
So yeah, I've always been sort of a consumer of media, as it were.
Absolutely same
I
here.
do have a follow-up question. You said you're an intern at Marvel. How do you become an intern at Marvel? Like,
I love
I
it.
could not even understand. Like, I would get too crazy. Like, I'm gonna be at Marvel.
Yeah.
You
Wow.
know, it was incredibly cool. I will say, like back in the day, there used to I don't I forget where I saw the ad. I still have a copy of it. It wasn't in comic books, but I had an ad. It was like with Doctor Doom on it, basically saying if you're interested in interning at Marvel, call this number. I mean, this is sort of
Wow.
pre-email
God,
to
that's
date myself,
wild.
really. And I called and I got an interview, and next thing I knew, I had an internship. It was. I mean, obviously, it would never happen like that today.
Right.
But this was back in the early '90s. Late '80s, early '90s. So it was just a different world. Just a different world. I
Yeah.
mean, such a different world
That's
that, like,
amazing.
this is like kind of pre-internet. Back. This was back in the days when Marvel would have two Macintosh computers, one on each floor. And like it's like you had to, like, like, oh, you go and use it. But it really, it's so, like, really the Stone Age.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wild. Yeah. Todd and I are looking at numbers. We're 3 or 4 years younger than you, so we're all in the same space. So yeah, we were. Todd is proudly wearing our Michigan State Sparty. We're Michigan guys. We went to Michigan State,
Cool.
and I interned at the State News, which I thought was a big deal, but it wasn't Marvel.
It was unbelievably, yeah, it was unbelievable. It was a great experience. It was a really, really great experience.
Did you
And
get yelled at by anybody cool?
Yeah.
oh, did I get yelled at by anyone? Cool. That's a good question. I didn't get yelled at by anybody.
Oh, that's good.
I had, like, I had the fear of God put into me about dealing with certain people. Like, I was actually working in Terry Kavanaugh's office at the time. He was editing Marvel Comics Presents, and at the time, Marvel Comics Presents was doing Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X series, the iconic
Ooh, wow.
Weapon X series, and I was told in no uncertain terms, because oftentimes, this is all pre-digital, pre-internet, like I said, all the communication was done via FedEx. And I was told, do not address something to Barry Smith. He will send it back. It's got to be Barry Windsor Smith. And
Show
that always
respect.
That always stuck with me.
Uh,
John Byrne was doing Namer at the time, and from his reputation, I was totally expecting at some point I'm going to get chewed out on the phone,
mm,
by John Byrne. Never happened.
wow.
Couldn't have been sweeter. Nicest guy.
We were just talking about him because he is one of my bucket interviews that I would love to speak to him, but I understand he's very difficult to get to, so I'm not holding out too much hope.
Ah,
Yeah, we've had a lot of opportunities to do some really cool interviews. Tom DeFalco, we had him on.
oh,
James
cool.
Matthias. I mean, just all of these guys that are like
Larry
at
Hama
the
recently, yeah.
hallmark. Yeah, it's some of the hallmark people that influenced our youth. So I imagine
Yeah.
you being there,
Oh,
starstruck.
totally.
It's like, oh my God, he drew Spider-Man or he
Yeah.
wrote Spider-Man or something like that. Wow.
No, I'm a huge fan of JM's work. Craven's Last Hunt alone is a classic. He's written so
Oh my
many other
God.
amazing things, and Tom was actually the editor in chief back when I was interning at Marvel, so I got to deal with him a little bit.
Such a
He's
nice
really
guy.
nice
Really
guy.
love
Such
talking
a
to
Yes.
him. So we could pontificate Marvel all day, but Todd has a question.
Yeah. So it's interesting because you come at the same time that we did, where traditional TV was the thing, 24 episodes a year, commercials, you had your hiatus, you had to wait, you had that break until summer, maybe reruns came on, and then now you've worked on streaming, and I've heard some people like becoming a showrunner in TV is really helpful versus today where people are making like 10-hour like movies rather than a TV series. So are there anything that you would view as like helpful things from working from that era of TV to streaming now?
Well, I tell you, the worst thing that ever happened to the medium of television is that television shows became, like you said, 10-hour movies. And that's if you're lucky. It's usually like an 8-hour
Yeah.
movie, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I have to say, if I was coming up now, I don't. One of the big problems that we have with these short orders is that because the orders are short and because of the way streaming is produced, production is now divorced from the writing process. They're two separate things. And writers basically don't stick around aren't contracted to stick around to produce their episodes. So as a result, you've got a lot of showrunners today who have never been to set. They've never been in an editing bay. They've never been on a mix stage. So I'm really lucky that I came up during the days of traditional broadcast television where, yeah, I went to set and I, went into editing and I went, to mixes and ADR sessions and everything. And that experience is just invaluable. And unfortunately, there's no means to replace it or to replicate it these days, and it's a real problem.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness
Yeah,
gracious.
I mean, I think about like a show like Arrow. You probably had time to think what's working, what's not. Let's address it, see it as it's coming out, and then think, okay, this
Yeah.
will work. I just can't. When you've done everything all at once, drop it. Your opportunity to make any changes, or
Oh,
you're
it's
hoping you get a second season maybe now.
yeah, no, it's terrible, and I mean, it's things like there really is. I mean, look, there's pros and cons to the two different models, but one of the pros of the traditional broadcast model is you could react to dailies. You know,
Right.
if Emily Rickard shows up in episode 3, and blows the doors off the place, you can go, oh, wait a second, we need to see more of her. Or if like Dolph Lundgren comes in and again blows the doors off the place, you can go, how many more episodes can we get him for?
You're right.
And you just can't do that, obviously, in the streaming world. It's Streaming is easier as a showrunner. It's much easier to show run a streaming show. And it's not just that there are fewer episodes, because production and writing are divorced from each other. You've got time. When you're doing 22 episodes a season, you are literally working, I'm not kidding, on 5 episodes simultaneously.
Oh my
There's the
gosh.
episode you're breaking, the episode you're writing, the episode you're rewriting, the episode that's in production, the episode that's in post. And it's you're constantly responding to crisis after crisis. That's no fun, but it's boot camp. I mean, that experience, there's just no substitute for it. So I sort of joke that, you know going from going from the traditional network model to the streaming model is like a cop going from Compton to Kansas. It's
No.
just a different job. You know?
Ooh. Compton to Kansas. There's one to put on the marquee. So the Arrowverse, we were already talking about it. You're a Marvel guy. That was in the 90s. The Arrowverse was, I'm thinking 2012. Is that when that show got
2012,
rolling?
yeah.
Wow, look at that.
Started
See, I got
very
ahead.
good.
I remember numbers. It's weird. So how did that come to be? How did you get involved in that show?
Well, Greg Berlanti and I had met on a show called Jack and Bobby, and then we did a show together called Eli Stone.
Okay.
And the Eli Stone experience actually led to the critically acclaimed Academy Award winning Green Lantern movie starring Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, what a gem.
Right. And
Big
basically,
fan.
like,
Synergy.
while we're waiting for the movie to come out with a great deal of dread, um, Warner Brothers had come to Greg and said, "Hey, that idea for a Green Arrow show, you still want to do that, right?" And Greg and I are looking at each other, going, "We don't want to do that, do we? Like another DC character with green in the name, for God's sake! Like, do we? I mean, how we're dumb, but we're not stupid. Why would we do that? Again." And Peter Roth, who was the head of Warner Brothers Television at the time, was unbelievably persistent. I mean, he was even calling me, and I'm like, I'm nobody. Like, why are you calling me? And basically, like Peter can be very persuasive, and he basically got Greg and I to a place where we were like, okay, if we were to do this, what would it have to look like? From a logistical / creative perspective, how would we go about it? And we basically create a very unconventional way of developing a show. We basically said, we're going to take two meetings. We're going to meet with the studio, or we're going to meet with the network. And in both meetings, we will pitch you the show. And if you like it, you will commission a script from us. We will not do a story area. We will not do an outline. You will not give us notes on a story area. You will not give us notes on outline. You will get a script. There will be no Deadline article. There will be no Hollywood Reporter article. No one's going to know that we're doing this unless we're actually doing it. We're shooting it.
It sounds like the
And
Cat in the Hat. I will not in a story
yeah,
meeting. I
we
will not in an
really,
outline.
yes, that's yes, exactly. Green eggs and ham, actually.
Green eggs and ham. Well, my goodness. Excuse me. Yeah.
But yes, it
Perfect.
really was like, because what happened with Green Lantern was it basically got taken away from us and got rewritten, and a director was brought on who didn't really know what he was doing, and we were like, we're not gonna let this get away from us, if we're going down on our vision and the version of the show that we want to make. And Warner Brothers and CW, God bless them, said yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I was an enormous fan.
Thanks.
And I love Legends of Tomorrow. That was another show I really dug on. So
Well,
yeah.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Good
Yeah, it
stuff.
spawned so much. I mean, that's kind of crazy. CW, kind of a network that, are you really going to do like a big show like this? Can you do it? I mean, they had passive. That's just
Yeah.
amazing. So
Just
yeah,
crushed it. Absolutely crushed
It was a wonderful time, and we had great partners. Mark Pedowitz at the head of the CW and Peter Roth at Warner Brothers. It was a creatively a very, very, very fulfilling experience. It was challenging. It's like, Todd, you talk about like changing episodes or fixing episodes. Episodes 2 through 8 of Arrow all required reshoots. And in network television, especially, reshoots are not built into the production
Yeah.
schedule or the budget. Like, you've got to sort of do it on the fly. And it's funny. I remember watching episode 9 with Greg in his office, and episode 9 was our mid-season finale, and we just looked at each other and we said, "Oh, thank God, we don't have to do reshoots." Because we weren't even sure if we could get to a point or to an episode that didn't require some form of reshoot. And a lot of that was because, we were kind of, I don't want to be like highfalutin and say we were reinventing superhero television, but what we were doing was superhero television for the post Smallville era. We were and we were doing it a different way. We had a character who didn't have a mask. We were doing, far more ambitious stunts and scope than had traditionally been done, on Smallville. And it required a lot of R&D, quite frankly. It required a lot of, learning on the fly and figuring out, okay, what works, what doesn't. Um, even just like how, how Arrow, Green Arrow would talk to Laurel Lance, is he affecting a voice? Is he not affecting a voice? How close can they be to each other without it being like, Oliver, isn't that you under the hood?
Clark
All
Kent.
these things, yeah, all these things required, trial and error. And it got to the point where we thought we'd never get out of the trial and error phase.
Amazing. And I mean, you did things with Green Arrow, quite honestly, that, I mean, you kind of redid a different origin. You gave him Slade, which quite honestly, that was an amazing just adversary versus, I mean, he doesn't have exactly a great, like,
No, he doesn't.
iconic villain. So borrowing and reusing and really turning him into something great that was a genius take, just to go after it, because it really worked really well. Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencaster. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencaster is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencaster because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencaster has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencaster? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencaster. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencaster's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencaster's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to Zencaster.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I mean, it was funny. It really started off with, it really started off with David Nutter, who directed the Arrow pilot. He wanted some sort of totem or icon or something to see in the opening shot of the pilot, where we're on the beach and we're sort of panning across the beach of Lianyu, the shore. And it was actually Jeff Johns who said, "Oh, why don't you like stick the Deathstroke mask on there?" And that really, like, and originally it was just supposed to be like a little Easter egg, a little, sort of throwaway thing. And then the more we talked to DC, the more Slade became, available to us, to use. And that was really, really exciting for us. I mean, and you'll note, like, Deathstroke, or a character who looks a lot like Deathstroke, appears much sooner than Slade does. Because, in fact, the guy who is sort of wearing the Deathstroke mask, we didn't refer to him as Slade Wilson. We gave him a different name because it was this slow sort of process of, okay, what will DC give us permission to do?
Yeah.
Which is sort of how the way all the shows work, for the length of all their runs. It's like, okay, what's available today? What's available tomorrow? And yeah, Slade was, definitely a game changer for us, in terms of opening up the creativity of the show. And that first year was tricky. That first year was probably the hardest year of my career, 25 years of doing this. But it was very rewarding because you can see how there were certain episodes where it's like, oh, we figured out something new, like the show leveled up here and the show leveled up here and the show leveled up here. And like those episodes were really, really key in developing what ultimately became the look and feel of the show.
Excellent. Good deal. Todd.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you touched on Green Lantern, so we have to pull off the Band-Aid, but I'm looking at a different way.
Okay.
So the
I've
Green
had a
Lantern
lot of
movie.
therapy. I can talk about it now.
Well, it's interesting because I really it was like Tale of Two Movies. I really like the Green Lantern Corps stuff. The rest of the stuff was okay. But you worked on that movie, worked with the story team. And then that movie ended with kind of a promise of more things to come with Sinestro, things like that. Not sure how much of that was yours, as you said.
The Sinestro bit was actually a reshoot.
Okay.
And I was involved, tangentially in some cases, but I was involved with the reshoots. Basically, what happened was Greg Berlanti was supposed to direct the movie, and Greg co-wrote the script with me and Michael Green, and then basically what happened, and I don't fault Warner Brothers for this at all. I do the same thing. Is they literally like woke up one day and was like, wait a second, we're not going to spend $250 million on a movie written by 3 TV writers, directed by a guy who's only done a small indie film before. That's insane. Which, in hindsight, yes, probably would have been a little bit insane. So they basically, replaced Greg with Martin Campbell. They brought in Michael Goldenberg, who was a legitimate feature writer, to rewrite the script, and Michael and Martin made the script that you saw. I always like to say a very, very, very rudimentary Google search will surface our first draft of the script. Now, it's very much a first draft, but you'll see like that's the movie we wanted to make.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can see, the differences. But yeah, so we basically, Sinestro was a reshoot. We actually, Warner Brothers, God bless them, they did commission us to do a treatment for a sequel that Greg, Michael, and I did. I don't remember much of it. I can tell you how it ended. It ended with Hal, he has to fly into the central power battery on Oa, and that's sort of where the climax takes place, within the central power battery. And Hal emerges from that victorious, but his temples are gray. Which, for comic book fans knows, that means he's been, possessed by a more malevolent force. And that would have been very cool.
Yeah.
So you're saying probably don't rush Parallax into the first movie.
Well, originally Parallax was not in our draft. It wasn't Parallax. Jeff Johns suggested that it be changed to Parallax. Originally, it was a character named Legion from, I think it was like Ron Mars's run.
Okay.
But and we weren't envisioning like a cloud of mist with a face,
like Galactus.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, there were just a lot of like limitations and and budgetary limitations and stuff. And it's funny. Like when I read Michael Goldenberg's draft of the script, I said to Greg, I'm like, this isn't bad. I mean, I sort of tried to convince myself, but I'm like, it's not bad, but all the work that we had done on the page to provide heart and humor was gone. And I was like, basically, I said, essentially with this draft, Martin Campbell's really doubling down on himself, because a lot of the stuff that we were doing in the script is now fully the responsibility of the director. And, like he's going to have to find the emotion, and he's going to have to find the heart in the performances, because it's no longer on the page. And well, I'll leave it to you to decide how successful he was.
That leads me to my and I think I'm finally glad that Green Lantern is looking like he has brighter days ahead, as we would say, because we are getting as we are getting Guy Gardner on the screen, and we're also getting a Lanterns project back on TV. And you know what? They might need a writer.
Well,
help.
Greg and I were developing a Green Lantern series before Lanterns.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and by the way, I feel like, the removal of the word green to create your title, that was kind of our thing. Um,
Whoops.
and but to be totally honest with
That's
you,
flattery, right? You should be flattered, as they
to be
say.
totally
Yeah.
honest with you, Warner Brothers and HBO were like, we had, Sinestro, and we had Aliens, and we had the Core, and we had Oa, and they kept giving us notes basically like, can you make this True Detective with power rings? They never said that, but we were like, oh, that's what they want. They want True Detective with power
Mm-hmm.
rings.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, they killed our version of the show and then literally announced we're doing True Detective with power
True
rings. Like,
Detective.
okay, well, our instinct about what they wanted, it was accurate. Which is, by the way, not to say that that's not a perfectly legitimate and cool take. I think there's a lot of really talented writers, behind that project. It's just, it wasn't what Greg and I were interested in doing. It wasn't, that wasn't, that didn't excite us. We were excited about other things.
Excellent. So, looking back in the comic world, looking at Marvel, I'm a huge Marvel guy. Todd's a much bigger DC guy than I am, but we obviously love both. But you're writing a series that myself and our third partner, Mark, who's up in Nova Scotia, Canada, we do a Star Wars show together. We talked about Jedi Knights, which is now, I think the second issue is out. I read that a couple of weeks ago. Absolutely loving on that. So you're at Marvel now, which is awesome.
Yep.
You wrote Spider-Man. Spider-Man is my life. It's Spider-Man over here in the corner here. That's my big jam. You've done Wolverine. You've done the Punisher. So all of that nice, 80s and 90s gel that we grew up on. So, is there, give me, a couple of favorite moments or maybe a character that you didn't get a chance to take a crack at, that if you had your druthers about it, you'd take a stab.
Well, I have to say, I've done like stories, done in one stories, with this character, but I've never done a run on Daredevil. And as a former attorney, with some experience writing, street level superheroes, I really want to get a hold on, my hands on. I'd love to. I'd really love to do a run on Fantastic Four. That would be a lot of fun. I have an idea for an Iron Man arc, that I think could be really cool. I was going to say, like, I really want to return to writing Spider-Man, but guess what? I've returned to writing Spider-Man. I'm writing a new Spider-Man and Wolverine series for Marvel.
What?
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah,
And
and it's
I'm not.
great because
It's in the works, right? I'm not missing that reading it
no,
right now,
it's
am I?
it's out in May. It's out next
Okay.
month.
Okay.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Kari Andrews is drawing it.
I
It's,
will
you
get
want
it.
to talk about that 90s sort of feel, like it's just a balls to the wall, widescreen, all sorts of action and chaos type of series. And it's fun for me because I wrote Spider-Man and Wolverine separately very early on in my comic book career, and I feel like I've just grown by leaps and bounds as a writer since then. So the ability to sort of come back and write these characters now with knowing what I know, I'm really excited by. And also, I when I was doing Spider-Man, I was really busy running a show called Flash Forward, and I didn't really take the time to stop and smell the roses. Like
Mm.
I never like took that moment and go, I'm writing Spider-Man. So now I get to appreciate it and
I
enjoy it.
love it. I will, because tomorrow's free comic book day when we're recording this. I will let my comic shop guy know that I want him to hold that title for
Please.
me because I'm very interested. Yeah, awesome. All
Cool.
right, Todd.
Well, I'm going to shift to something that Charlie probably has no interest in because he's a certain age. But my
I'm a
son's 19 now,
certain
but
age.
we watched a lot of animated shows, and the animated shows that are out now are so good. And the Tales of Arcadia is so cool. Guillermo del Toro doing something that's out, you don't think of him as warm and fuzzy, a little bit brighter. But that show has had tremendous success, and it's done like I can't even keep up because it's like, which version is this? And it's amazing. Great characters, great fun, great mythology and lore, and that world is amazing, and obviously can support all that. Is animation a medium you'd like to work more in?
Oh yeah, I love animation. And actually, as it turns out, it's not public yet, and we haven't announced what the show is. But I'm actually working on an animated show for Netflix right now.
Sweet.
Oh,
And
excellent.
Congrats. Nice.
and my wife, who's also a writer, my wife and I just sold a pilot for an animated show to Disney Plus. So
Disney
I'm
time.
very at
Well,
the moment I'm very much ensconced in the world of animation.
Awesome.
that's awesome. Well, Disney Plus has Marvel characters. That could be
I will
interesting.
tell you this. I will tease you with the following.
Okay.
Oh boy.
It is not an original idea of ours. This is a piece of
Okay.
IP. It is not Star Wars related, and it is not Marvel related.
Oh, really?
But those are the
But
only two things that exist.
right, but it is incredibly cool. It's
Okay.
it's an IP that my wife and I bonded over when we first started dating.
Oh, wow.
It's yeah. If I say anything further than that, I'll get in trouble. But
The
I
mouse
have
will
one in mind that if
through your
it's
window.
that, I will go crazy because it's something I think deserves more love. But hopefully that's it.
maybe
we'll talk-
off the podcast.
We'll
we
talk
can
off
talk
screen.
about
Yes.
it.
So Charlie and I have been talking about this. Is just a sidebar because we've got you here, and what you've been talking about is amazing. Charlie and I are both of fans of Star Wars of a certain eras. I like the original trilogy a lot. I've always said Disney needs to go into animation and do the adventures of original trilogy crew post Jedi. Get voice actors that sound great and just see more of those adventures, animation style, like the Marvel What If style.
Yeah,
I
that's a
love the
great
animation
idea.
style. So
That's a
if you
great
want to
idea.
pitch that idea to Disney, and we don't even, we'll just like,
Hey,
Hands up.
I'm always like I would I love writing Star Wars, and I would work for Lucasfilm in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
well,
Awesome.
there you go.
Good deal.
All our ideas keep getting, nobody pays attention to them and don't know why.
I would be
Someday.
remiss. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that actually, starting with Free Comic Book Day tomorrow, my friend Alex Segura is writing the flagship Star Wars comic for Marvel,
I
and
know. I'm getting it.
is set with the original trilogy cast after Jedi. So
Very excited.
That's amazing. Adapt
next
that
week.
and put that in animation. Let's just do that.
It will certainly scratch that itch for you.
Gotcha. Well,
Perfect. Love it.
please tell him in advance that when I read it on Wednesday, I'm sure I will be thrilled. Very fired up about that. Well, this has been absolutely incredible. Mark, before we wrap up, you've talked a lot about different projects you're working on. Anything else people should be keeping an eye out for? Anything else that deserves the big plug?
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I'm so bad at promotion. But earlier this week, I published the first issue of a new creator-owned series that I'm doing with Harvey Talabau, who I'd worked with on X-Men, who has drawn the High Republic for Dark Horse, the Star Wars High Republic, a new series at Comixology Originals called The Adventures of Ulysses Monarch. And it's basically what if Indiana Jones was around 1,000 years from now, and the ancient civilization that he was exploring was ours.
I love it. Love it.
It's very much, it very much feels like if Star Wars and Indiana Jones had a baby. Is pretty much so.
When would we see this? Because Todd and
This came out earlier this week. So
my
the first
gosh.
issue's out, and it's a 5-issue first arc, and
we will cover it. We have a comic book podcast specifically. We'll cover it.
Sure do.
Cool.
Yeah, put it down. Good deal. Well, Mark, absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for your time. Where would people find you out there on socials if they want to follow your adventures?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Marc Guggenheim, and I am also on Blue Sky, and I also publish a semi-weekly. I say semi because I've fallen off lately. A semi-weekly newsletter on Substack called Legal Dispatch. So if you go to markguggenheim.substack.com, you can subscribe to that. And I usually talk about my projects and things of that nature.
I've started.
They were giving legal advice or something.
Oh God! Well, I used to be a lawyer, so I could. But but I'm a better writer than I was a lawyer. So
I've just started to dabble in Substack, so now I have a reason to go back.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. Awesome, Mark. Again, thanks. Folks, if you're listening to this on our free feed, please feel free to visit patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. You can try us out for 7 days for free and stay on board for as little as $2 a month to hear lots of great content like that. Mark, we will bid you adieu, and thanks for stopping by.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
All right.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.